Warning, this podcast will contain spoilers. What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the As Seen on TV podcast. This one for a post-impressions of the Daredevil series. What fun. I'm your host, Mike, and joining me are Cleo.
Hello.
With the antenna.
No,
and Erica.
My devil horns.
Oh, the Daredevil horns. And Erica and Dom.
Hey!
Hi!
How's it going?
It's going good. So, Daredevil.
Yeah.
He's a successful lawyer.
Can we get more episodes?
I know, right?
I tried really hard not to watch it all in one sitting.
And to your credit, you were somewhat successful.
I was going to wait and watch the final episode, like, just before this podcast.
No.
Did not last. I watched the first, so we watched the first one separate for our first video. And then I watched the next 10. No, next 11. Yeah, next 11 I watched in one sitting. And then I waited like 24 hours. That's as long as I made it before I could watch the finale, but yeah.
Couldn't resist. It was a great series.
The only reason mine was like split up like 4 or 5 viewings was because
sleep.
The feels. No, I was like I have to walk away.
Yeah, that did that after episode 7. I just cut it off. I was like, I can't watch anymore.
Yeah.
And then I came back to it. Literally, I woke up today. I was like, I gotta finish this for the podcast. Push play and did not finish before we got the Skype call.
So you haven't even finished it yet?
I've got 13 minutes left on the final episode.
Oh, damn.
It just got to the point where the other people came and ransacked Fisk's van and took him out of the van, and then Lady is standing at the helicopter, and that's where it stopped. If you can see the TV, I don't think you can. But.
Kind of. You didn't miss a whole lot.
No, you really didn't.
I'm not worried about spoilers or anything. I'm just gonna hit play after this is done and watch the rest. I've seen all episodes, so yeah.
But yeah, we had. There's a lot to talk about. One thing I want to mention: we had talked about cinematography for our first impressions of the first episode, and I wish we would have watched the second episode because we could have mentioned the closing scene, which was a 5-minute single take fight scene. Done in that hallway, from one camera angle.
Yeah, it's a single shot, but I'm sure there were multiple takes.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. It was a single shot, as in
an uninterrupted, don't cut away.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't CG anything. It was 1 6-minute.
From what I heard, it was all one take. Like they didn't stop the camera
it the first time.
Like they didn't stop the camera.
I don't know if they got it the first time.
Yes, it's one take, but it wasn't the only take they took.
Right.
Yeah, it's probable that it wasn't the only take they took, but it was
more than likely. Even if they nailed it first attempt, they would have been like, "I'd do it again."
Yeah, and then they just picked the first one or something. Yeah, but
exactly.
That's what people are going on about, is how it was one set thing, and they didn't have to stop and edit it back together and all that stuff.
There's no cuts. It's just one shot.
I don't know. I felt like getting everything all in one block, and it's probably because I sat down literally and watched it in one big chunk. I felt there was a lot of unnecessary parts of the show that it dragged a little bit in places for me.
Yeah.
I don't think it would have been as noticeable if I watched it like one episode a week, like all other TV shows.
Right.
Could you give me examples of those?
It's just like a lot of like a lot of the lawyer scenes and stuff like that, like where they're just sitting around, and it's like, I understand like you need to see the struggle and stuff like that. There weren't a whole lot of scenes with between Fisk and Vanessa, but then I feel like there could have been less with time jumps.
Right.
What do you mean
So
with time jump?
if they did like 1 week later, I mean, the only significant time jump that I noticed was between the last episode and the rest of the series. Because Matt
Yeah, it was
Murdock was
all
all still cut up and scarred from, his fight with the ninja dude, all the way up until the last episode. In the last episode, he had none of the scars left on his face. So
Well,
there was a time jump.
I don't feel like it was that much of a time jump. I think he heals very quickly.
I don't think his meditation powers are that quick.
I don't know.
I have to
There was not
agree.
even a trace of any of the scars.
Yeah, for all the
Yeah, but I don't think it was a very long time at all. I don't think.
well, for all of the for as close together as the episodes seem to be, not like some shows where there's like 2 weeks between an episode, like in Showtime.
Right.
He did seem to heal awfully quick from all the beatings and wounds he took. I mean, some of those, like that nasty cut he got across his stomach, that would have taken weeks to heal.
Yeah.
To heal to the point where he could move like he wanted and needed to.
He did explain that he had meditation that allowed him to heal, and the doctor lady was nice. I forget her name.
Oh God, who was? I don't remember her name. Rosario Dawson. That's what we're gonna call her.
Yeah.
That's who she was.
Indeed. So.
Yeah, that's one of the
Oh,
things.
can I just say real quick for the record, Clea? I
Yes,
told
yes,
you he
go.
was being
Sorry.
trained by.
I was looking up
some
Rosario's
sort.
name.
What?
What?
I told you that he was being trained in martial arts.
Yes. Okay, no, and I wanted to say this because in my mind we're both right because his training wasn't finished. So he's
Okay.
not fighting like people who have finished his training, but he did receive training. So we're both right.
I'll let it slide.
There we go.
Yeah. Thank you. Stick was
I
a
love
nice
how
surprise.
neither of us are admitting we're wrong, but we're both willing.
We're not. Neither of us are wrong. Okay, no. We're both wrong, but neither of us are right.
No, I don't agree with that.
Whatever. I'm just gonna go away from
Whatever,
that.
don't care.
That's one of the things, though, that I did pick up on the show. Like I've watched a few of the other Netflix shows, like Orange is the New Black, House of Cards, things like that, and there's not much noticeable filler. However, this show, I don't know if they were writing it to be like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or if they're writing it to be like a once a week thing, but there was a lot of noticeable filler in the show.
Like what?
I mean, it's not stuff like individual things that you can point out, but we're just like a lot of the stuff is not moving the plot along. It's all like
Yeah,
just kind of
I agree
meh.
with you because I remember it when it was going on. I was like, yeah, I remember like a lot of filler, but the reason I can't call any of it to a point is because it was forgettable.
Yeah.
Well, it's all stuff that's necessary to the plot or to the backstory or to the exposition, or it's necessary stuff. But if you cut all the filler out, they would have only had like 8 episodes instead of 13.
But I don't.
So
I mean, if it's contributing to the plot, even if it's slow or even if that's not filler.
it's stuff that didn't need to be in it. It's what's filler. It's stuff that's like, oh well, here's the backstory of Kingpin's daddy doing stupid stuff like where they walked him to go beat up that kid. It's like, okay, that's 5 minutes, and
That's
then
important. That whole thing was important because that's what got his dad mad at him. That's what made part of what made him murder his father.
right, and
So
that could have been cut out too.
I don't think
You
so.
don't
I mean,
you don't have any reason of showing.
In a way that ended up contributing to the main plot because it led the whole reporter to go talk to his mother, which pissed him off further. Got the reporter killed. So I mean, without some of that stuff, I don't know. I do agree that there was a lot of side plots, I should say, side
Yeah.
plots that were unnecessary. Um, I don't because I know Cleo takes offense to the word filler, but I feel there was too many unnecessary side plots.
I don't think she takes offense to the word filler, just to the overuse of filler in
Yeah,
the TV
well,
shows.
yeah.
Well, okay. And we've had this discussion before about what exactly is filler.
We have it on every Supernatural podcast.
Every supernatural podcast. And I'm not sure if you can
Well,
categorize character development.
you can't say that filler is only defined as completely useless information, and because they cut all that stuff out in editing. That's the whole point of post production.
Right.
But most of the stuff that goes on in a show doesn't need to go on in a show.
Like I understand. Let's take the priest for example. The priest did not actually contribute very much, if anything, to the overall story or plot. He's a huge part of the comics, and I think he was just put in for fan service.
Right.
But he
I mean,
was not necessary to be in the series.
There
You're
was
right.
never
And he
one
was-
time.
But
Yeah.
he's also there to help Matt with his moral dilemmas, the things he's fighting with in the inside,
Right.
That never
or
happened.
more character development.
We expected that to happen, but it never really happened. It was always like, well, what's troubling you today? What's going on? I think I need
I'm
to
not
kill
going to talk
somebody.
about it, and he just like leaves.
Yeah, he's like, I think I need to kill somebody.
I thought they were going to get into the real meat of it, like when, he says, I think you know who I am. Yes, son, I'm not an idiot. I kind of figured it out.
Yeah.
Like, at that point, I'm like, oh, good. Now, they're going to get into the meat of the priest, whose name I don't remember, and, Matt's interactions, and then it kind of just stalled a bit.
He just walked away. Yeah.
So, I could see that not really contributing. Maybe, next season, if they even do it next season and they don't just continue the story with other Marvel series, maybe we'll get more of that. But, I don't know, let's, I guess, move on to certain characters. So, for the whole series, overall portrayal of Matt Murdock, a.k.a. Daredevil. What do you think?
Beautiful. And I mean, it's there's something about him that's more emotional than a lot of heroes we see. And I know me and Dom talk about this in our Flash podcast. But I think a diversity of like different kinds of emotions that people have is something that's important, and it's definitely something that Marvel's doing.
Well, yeah, because
we're getting a whole variety of types, and it's not only that, but like we mentioned in our first impressions podcast too, it's having a diverse amount of heroes that have handicaps as well. And just having that, like, and just seeing Daredevil the way Daredevil's meant to be portrayed, and not like we got out of that horrible movie forever ago. This, I don't know. I love this so much.
I know
as much as they're like, this is not like, this is featuring like this little corner of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and couldn't translate as well to screen. I think this could have been a movie. I think they could have done this as a movie just as well as a TV series. I prefer TV series because you get more of the side plots, more character development, more time with the characters, more stuff like that. But I 100% think this could have been a movie.
They could have pulled off a movie, but it worked so much better as a series for all the reasons you just said.
You would not have been able to get all of that in a 2-hour movie.
No, you wouldn't.
You could have gotten it in a trilogy. Like Thor is a trilogy. There's stuff we're finding out about Thor every time we see a Thor movie. They didn't have to tell his whole complete story in one movie.
No, but we get in one movie Thor's origin or whatever. We got Matt's origin in 12 hours. Like, that was, we got to take our time seeing
it
him
wasn't
come
just
up.
Matt's
I don't
origin,
think you
though.
could have done that in a movie.
It wasn't just Matt's origin. We got so many of the characters' origins.
Of course.
It's everybody.
But I'm just talking about
Yeah.
the big, obviously biggest thing about the show, which is Daredevil.
Right,
Matt.
it's Daredevil, and this was as much. I mean, I've seen it likened to this on the internet. Daredevil Year One is basically how they put it. It's not like a complete true origin, but it's like his first year as the hero, and it's also as much of an origin for Kingpin as it is for Daredevil. The whole series, which I liked. I loved that.
I
the
mean,
way they did that.
My favorite part of Matt Murdock's story was like the flashbacks with Foggy and seeing like how they first met and they were in college, and like I love those flashbacks, and then like the betrayal that Foggy felt like at that moment too, and it was just like that was probably the highlight of the series for me.
Yes.
Like all these years you've been hiding this from me. Yeah.
And that was definitely the moment where I was like, I'm gonna turn the TV off for a minute and walk, just to walk away, because Foggy is such a precious human being, and he's my favorite part about the show.
I know.
And when he felt so betrayed, I'm just like, no, but he did. I was just like, no, Foggy, no.
That's
Don't be
one thing.
Can I just call him Fulton instead of Foggy?
No.
That was his character's name in Mighty Ducks.
No.
Go on, Erica.
That's the one thing I liked how they explained to the show is that Matt's not actually blind. He can't see out of his eyes, yeah, but he sees just as well as anybody else, and he can put everything together in ways that people just don't think about.
Yeah.
And so he even explained it later on. Sight just gets in the way.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, his other senses make up for the lack of sight, and his brain puts together, an image for him, so he can kind of see.
But
And-
I like how they did it in this a lot better than how it was done. Not like I have been trying not to compare it to the old film, but
everybody's going to.
I kind of have to for this one part, because the way they depict how he views the world is so much better than the movie. Because the movie was like, he sees, it's just vibrations.
He sees sound.
This is like it. The camera and the focus and the sound design, it was all like this is, he's hearing this.
How many times did they actually show us from his sight? I only remember one.
They only showed us one true, image of how he sees once, but the rest of it was like Cleo's describing right now.
Yeah, as he put it, a world on fire many times.
Yeah, and then you see Claire.
But I feel like that could have been done better too.
I think so too. But seeing it once was fine.
I think we only need to see it once. But I feel like, so if he's not using his eyes, if his eyes have no part of that, he should not be seeing in first person perspective. So we should not have had that view.
No, because he had sight for 9 years of his life, so he knows what vision is.
It would have been an entirely different thing.
All the sounds, all the smells, everything that's coming into his brain is being put together in a way that his brain remembers seeing.
Yeah, I guess.
So the man who was blind his whole life probably doesn't see the same way that...
If, a man who was blind his whole life, if his brain were to piece together all other sensory information and make an image, it would probably be way different than someone who was blinded at the age of, 9, 12, 15.
I don't know, just because, like, he's picking up sounds and stuff that are coming from behind him, 360 degrees around him, that I would assume the way he would be able to piece together an image is it's like a 360 panoramic view.
Yeah.
And I would have rather seen like a pulled back shot of like Matt as like a blue solid figure in the middle of the room with everything else on fire around him that he like images that way. I would have rather had like a 360. This is what I see.
But I think that was just him focusing on Claire.
Yeah. Could be.
Yeah, he said he has to focus on everything.
Right, he did
so
say that.
It's like a directional observation. It's not a 360.
Yeah. So, enough about Matt. and Foggy.
On to Foggy.
Well, you know what? On to Foggy. Let's go on to Foggy. Foggy Nelson, a.k.a. Frederick Nelson. Was his name Frederick?
I don't remember.
I don't know. They
He
mentioned it
almost
once.
ever referred to him as Foggy.
I know they mentioned his name once, and I forget.
I don't remember.
I don't know.
Franklin.
That was it.
Okay.
So Foggy Nelson, interesting character, a man with very little vocal filter.
But
That's probably why Dom loves him so much.
Foggy is my favorite character.
Hi, I'm Matt Murdock. It's like, oh, you're blind. Dude, like, I'm going to get a whole nother level of chicks now.
I love that. He's like, and you're attractive.
Right.
And then Matt's like, whoa, I don't. And he's like, no.
Yeah, because he
Think of
was
my
kind of
level, bro.
he was kind of coming on to him like, dude, are you gay? Like, and then he's like, no, I like chicks. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
That was great. Oh my god.
Beautiful.
He's so funny.
He is so funny. Comic relief sidekick? I don't know what to say.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not his only purpose. And that's, I think, why I like him so much. He's not just there to be funny. I compared him to Cisco, actually, from Flash.
Yeah.
Except without the genius tech stuff. But he contributes so much besides just being funny. Like, he helps fix up an old lady's house, and
Right.
he's very good at getting drunk a lot.
Yes, he's... even though, you know, as he put it, he was in... Like, he's all his reasons, like, I want to be a lawyer to make money and all that stuff like that. But really, he was a good stand-up guy, you know.
He was.
Money wasn't his... As much as he said it was, money wasn't his driving force.
Yeah.
As much as we'd love to be filthy rich.
And I like the fact that it was Nelson and Murdoch and not Murdoch and Nelson, you know, whatever. It's just like, because it made Foggy seem like more important than Matt when it came down to the lawyer aspect of it.
Well,
Yeah,
you know what? I agree with him.
Explain that.
They explain that, and he says, Nelson and Murdoch sounds better. I may
It
be
does.
blind, but my hearing's great. But you know what? It rolls off the tongue better. Nelson and Murdoch and Nelson, Nelson and Murdoch. It just...
Well, 100% does.
The end
but,
of Murdoch.
But I mean, from a design point of view, too, that they could have made a different name. Because when they first created Daredevil, like, going, you know, I just like that it ended up being that Foggy gets on the... Like, his name is above... Matt's in the lawyer aspect, because it makes Foggy seem, and not that he's not, and I'm not downplaying that he's not, rather, but it makes him seem more important in that aspect, and then Matt is more important in the superhero aspect of it. Like, they each
Foggy
have this counterbalance of importance.
Foggy has to be. I'm not so much in this show, but Foggy has to be the lawyer, while Murdoch is going off being the vigilante.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know about I can't say this about the show itself, but like, if you had that kind of setup in, so to speak, a real world, then you would want that setup. You'd want the lawyer, the guy who's always in the office getting stuff done, and you'd want the vigilante going off and beating up people, getting information to, you know, just
Help
like
the
he
lawyer
did.
aspect.
Yeah, like he did several times. They hear something's going on, and Murdoch is like, okay, I'm going to go deal with this, and he went and dealt with it, and then the law firm dealt with it later. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So, move on a bit. Karen. Secretary lady.
Wow. Karen
Well,
was really all over the place.
I was just
Yeah.
gonna say that. That was my exact
yeah.
adjectival phrase to describe her.
Everywhere.
Everywhere. Like, for a moment, I suspected that she was some kind of assassin or some trained killer
Really?
for about 2 minutes. When, you know, rest in peace, Wesley, when she shot the crap out of him. At that point, I was like, you know, this isn't the first, you know, what makes you think I've never fired a gun before? And then she blows him away, and I'm like,
Yeah.
brain went into conspiracy mode. And then she goes back and drinks herself into a coma, and I'm like, oh, yeah, never mind.
Well, you just
Theory
saw
shot down.
you just got finished like what 2 months ago seeing Dottie on Agent Carter
Oh
did
I
the
know.
Jesus.
exact same
I
thing.
know. You're right. It's pre-programmed into me now. God damn you, Marvel.
I didn't really care for her, to be completely honest. There's one
I
character I would have rather had not on the show. I felt it took a lot away from it. She was like the damsel in distress most of the time. Um,
For the first
it-
half of it, anyway.
I mean, I
yeah,
think it was really only once, and the other time she was quote unquote in distress, she got herself out by murdering a dude. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think you can really pigeon her into one of those categories.
For the majority of the series, she was the
Majority?
damsel in
Majority?
distress. Majority.
No, in the beginning, yes, she was damsel in distress, and then she was kind of riding that wave for the next few episodes because I mean, even though she wasn't technically in distress anymore, they were still kind of protecting her.
She was distraught.
She was distraught, and
Yeah.
then she came
She was
out of
the
that.
damsel in distraught.
Yeah. Then she started being the one attempting to put people in distress,
Yeah.
which was nice.
I mean, the thing I got from her, I mean, her character obviously is very well a rounded character. She's very interesting. But the one time where I was like, bitch, hold up, was when she was like, oh fuck, you touched my face like you were blind. I'm like, what? That
Yeah.
That's so weird.
was the only time where I was like, what's happening?
Yeah. I don't
Yeah,
like. I wanted her and Foggy to be an item, and then I didn't, and then I did, and then I
I did until
didn't.
she said that, and then I was like,
Touch my face like you're blind. It's like
back up.
if I was
It's
him, I
like
would have been
paint
like,
me like one of your French girls.
it's like I'm touching her face. Like, okay, so basically she wants to imagine what it would be like for my blind best friend to be touching her right now.
Yeah, I don't know. That was kind
That's-
of the only thing where I was like, nope.
When
paint
But
me like
I
one of your
literally
French girls.
love
That's what it is.
everything else about her character.
when we were talking about filler earlier, I think all the romantic illusions in the show kind of all put together could have just been taken out.
The only one that I think was important was Vanessa.
Vanessa
Yeah.
and the Kingpin, yeah.
Yeah, but like Murdoch and the nurse and Foggy and Paige, they tried to go and didn't, and
I mean, I
and
think-
that just kind of left a speed bump there in the plot works. It just, I don't know, I didn't like
Yeah.
it.
I mean, I agree with you. It was like, oh, here's this thing, but nah, we were just kidding. But I think that's part of the like realism that this show brings to the MCU. Because if you're in the middle of a war, this is legitimately a war. If you're in the middle of a war, yeah, probably your relationships aren't going to pan out.
No, they're most certainly not going to. So, let's talk about Ben Ulrich.
Yes.
A character who, in the
Should we-
lovely aforementioned Happy movie that we all really, really liked, was portrayed as more of a tabloid journalist with his own urban legend column. And I'm not sure if that's how he was portrayed in the comics,
I don't think
because
so.
I never really read more than one issue of a Daredevil comic.
The only thing I know about Ben is that he actually worked for the Bugle.
Okay.
He worked for
Yeah,
the Daily.
he worked with Peter Parker quite a bit.
Right. Okay. Well, they obviously can't put that in quite yet,
No.
but they're getting there.
Also, he's dead, so.
Also, well, now he's dead. Yeah, so that doesn't
Spoiler.
really matter. Spoiler
Because the
alert.
thing was, I had like just heard that he, like my dad just said, oh yeah, he worked for the Bugle. There was a version where he worked for the Bugle, and I was like, when he got fired, I was like, oh okay, so maybe they're gonna be like, when they finally get the rights back to Spider-Man, they're gonna make him work for the Bugle. Oh, he's dead. What? What just happened?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
It's
So
just
much-
like, oh.
So much pointless death in the show.
Which
like-
I think is another point of realism, because this is a war.
Yeah, I mean, to really solidify the fact that Wilson Fisk was portraying I should say Vincent D'Onofrio. And by the way, I could not watch. I have to stop watching other movies now. Like all I pictured Fisk as the entire thing was Edgar from Men in Black. Like, I
Yeah,
couldn't
I
unsee
know.
Edgar.
I'll never be able to watch
Was
Law and Order
he?
again.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was Edgar.
He's another actor I didn't go look up
I
because
recognized
I
him
didn't
just
want
by
it
the
to
voice.
affect how I thought about the character of the Kingpin.
He plays a lot of odd roles. This
He
guy
does, but just by the voice, I'm all I was picturing is sugar, water.
Bring me
That's all I
sugar.
could picture every time I heard him speak.
Oh, okay.
I was just like,
So
I have to
while
stop
we're on
watching other
Kingpin,
things.
yeah, I love the portrayal of Kingpin, and I loved the fact that, you know, the show was almost equally about him as it was about
Yeah.
Daredevil. Like, there were just as many scenes about him, you know, the Kingpin, and his life, and what he's doing in this, you know, whole war between,
Whoa. Hell.
you know, I guess the mob and the good people of Hell's Kitchen.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Guess that's how you
And
put
I
it.
mean, there were just as many flashbacks.
Mm-hmm.
We got just as much background from him as we did from Matt.
A man with legendary anger management issues. Once
Ooh.
described as the Hulk, you know, one used to describe the Hulk, but that kind of fits for you know, Fisk too.
Yeah, and most certainly.
And I really, really like the fact that they didn't jump the gun and call him the Kingpin.
Yes,
Right.
I agree.
Because they're like another show that we cover, Gotham. Like the Penguin, they set up Oswald Cobblepot, and it was just like, oh, you know, and then like it was like episode 2 or 3, they just started calling him the Penguin,
one.
and it's like, are you kidding
Episode
me?
It was
Like,
episode
They
one.
started from the first episode.
Was it-
because it was
it
the
the
only
first
episode I watched, and I remember them calling him Penguin.
yeah, so it was like, I don't know, it was like they really force fed that one to us, and it felt forced, and I disliked it
Yeah,
because of that.
And that way it
And-
was an insult, though.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, they
and
meant
they
it
were-
as
they
an
were
insult
telling-
to the guy.
They were telling Cobblepot, quit walking like a penguin, or something to that effect.
Yeah, and then here with Fisk, like they could have very easily like made Fisk like his favorite thing was a bowler, and they just like nicknamed him the Kingpin and like went that rule or
Well,
you
they
know, I
could-
don't know,
Exactly.
but like
They
they
could've made
didn't. They
Yeah, they
didn't.
could have made
and
an
no.
off-color remark about how he's in control of the city now. He's the kingpin of crime, or something stupid like
Yeah.
that.
But I like
They
that
didn't.
this was a very accurate portrayal of, like, this is probably the most comic accurate portrayal of a character in this series, I think, so far. But then again,
Yeah.
like I said, I haven't read that much Daredevil, because he's a large, heavy-set looking, you know, white, bald man. But most
Yeah.
of his mass is actually muscle mass. The guy is strong as, you know, freakishly strong. And he wears a very light suit of body armor under
Yep.
his suit. I mean, that
Was
was...
that what it was? Because I always thought that he was just tough.
No, he wore...
No, it was
the
He did wear body armor?
Yes, in the
yeah,
comics,
it's
because
Kevlar body armor.
the Kingpin has no supernatural or extraordinary
Yeah.
superpowers. He is just a ridiculously strong man who wears
Yeah.
body armor.
Yeah, I mean, I can't accurately describe his portrayal from the Daredevil comics anyway, but I do know him from Spider-Man and also the Punisher. So, keeping in mind my perspective of that from those comics, he still was very accurately
Hey, you know
portrayed.
what? That was probably the only decent portrayal from the movie was Michael Clark Duncan as the Kingpin, even
I was
though...
actually just going to say that, how the thing I liked the most of the original Daredevil was Michael Clark Duncan. I was like, it's gonna be hard for me to see anyone else
I know,
as
'cause-
Kingpin. And then I was like, okay, yeah, I'm on board. I got it.
Yeah, Vincent D'Onofrio.
I
he
was
did-
reading
he
an
did a
article
great
about
job.
that. He put 40 pounds on for that role. This is the movie. You know, Michael Clark Duncan. He put 40 pounds on for the role, and his biggest concern was that comic book fans weren't going to appreciate it because the Kingpin was always portrayed as white.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, you know, that was his biggest concern going into playing the role.
Yeah.
But he nailed it. For
Yeah,
me.
I don't remember hearing anybody complain.
I did not. That was probably the only thing I couldn't complain about that movie.
The only
Exactly.
thing I saw was one of my friends on Facebook saying that he was not big enough.
Right.
That Kingpin should have been obese.
He
should
looks
have
like a
been
box.
large.
He's like a
Vincent
walking
D'Onofrio?
refrigerator.
This guy
Yeah, this
this
yeah.
actor was simply a built man. He wasn't large. He was stocky.
Right.
Yeah. He was still taller, I think, than any of the other characters.
And we
or
didn't.
most of the
I don't
other
think they wanted to go into comically large territory.
Right.
Yeah.
They wanted to be more realistic, like we've said.
Exactly. So you know what? Great portrayal of Kingpin. I loved it. And
Nailed it!
And he's the one guy that all through watching it was kind of like a Lex Luthor thing for me, where he's not really a villain. He does evil things, but
in his
he's
mind,
he's not an actual villain. He's doing it for the greater good, except his greater good is not the same perspective as Daredevil has.
he's lawful evil.
I also
Right.
think
He's the
that
Jigsaw of Hell's Kitchen.
I also think that he's lost sight of the greater good
Yes,
over the years.
he
Of all the
definitely
bad
did.
things he's had to do for this greater good, he's lost sight of the people he's trying to do it for.
Because he's
Right.
He
working
doesn't
with.
understand that anymore.
He is working with the Russian, the Chinese, the Japanese mob, and a corrupt Wall Street businessman. So, I mean, he is working with actual villains here.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
And then
whether
we-
his intentions were good in his own mind or not, he's still.
And I like when he got captured and everything. It's like, yeah, he's got Plan B. Like all these other people that he has working for him. You really think like one person you're gonna get to the bottom and rat everybody out, and that's gonna be the end of it? No, it wasn't.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was
Well,
pretty epic. Like, FBI
The-
just goes and simultaneously arrests everybody.
His whole story about the Good Samaritan, that whole thing, I was like, oh, this is so captivating. That by the time like the FBI busted him out, I was so wrapped up in the story.
Yeah, he told the Good Samaritan story very, very well. But that whole time he's in the van, I'm like, there is nothing from what we've seen of the character and what we know of Kingpin. There is nothing stopping him from just lunging forward and crushing one of their skulls.
Yeah, I was actually wondering why he didn't try that yet, and then his plan unfolded.
The
I was
plan
like,
unfolded, exactly.
That'd be why.
And that was my idea. When they took him, I'm like, wait, so you mean he paid off people in the NYPD, he paid off lawyers, he paid off judges, he paid off a senator. You're going to tell me, you're going to make me believe here that he did not pay off one person in the FBI? Like, are you
he
kidding
did.
me?
That
Obviously
one guy.
he did.
But I actually did think about that a little bit because, in his to me, what I thought about it was, in his mind, he's like, I've got all these police officers, I have a senator. He probably got all those as he needed them. He didn't really have cause to need FBI guys, not
Right.
at the moment.
Exactly.
So that's the reason he has so little
Mm-hmm.
in his pocket. I'm sure that will be rectified
Right,
fairly
because
soon.
all of his activities were in, the Hell's Kitchen area. Oh, was it a senator or was it a congressman?
Senator.
So it was an actual senator. Okay.
Was an actual
So yeah,
senator.
all of his activities were kind of centered onto a small area of New York City between 9th and 12th Avenue and I think like 40-something Street and low 50s. So he really didn't need the FBI.
Yeah.
But yeah, great portrayal of the character, and yeah, I don't know where I was going to go with that.
So, Mike, we were talking in
Oh
pre-show.
yeah, we were
about-
talking how I
I
mentioned to
really
them
wanna-
in pre-show. Thanks for reminding me because I would have.
You're
just
welcome.
moved
It's on my
to-
list of things to remember to bring up.
Thank you. For the first half of this season, I mean, we didn't see Kingpin, Fisk until like the third or fourth episode, but for me, I had trouble seeing him as a real villain.
Right.
Like, yes, it's obvious he's the villain. Yes, he's the Kingpin. He's a bad guy. But, the way the character was portrayed, I'm like, I can't, like, bring myself to hate this man or view him as a villain right now.
He's
Yeah, I don't-
probably the better word would probably be antagonist.
Yes, antagonist is a great word.
Obviously, nemesis to our hero Daredevil, but
Right.
But is he a
perhaps
true villain? Is he like
That-
Loki levels of, villainy?
He's not a supervillain.
Right, he's not a super
well,
villain,
I mean, you
Well, he
can
was-
argue that Loki's not all villain.
True.
Marvel's doing a fantastic job of humanizing their bad guys.
Let's see. Madame Gao was a villain. The two
The
two Russians were villains. The Japanese guy, the
Nobu.
ninja, Nobu, he was the Japanese version of the villain. He was the businessman who has everything straight, but then when it came time to kill somebody, he took it on himself to kill him. You know,
I think
they
it's
were villains. This guy was more of, like I say, more of the Lex Luthor style. Like I could do good, but I want to do this instead.
He's got the brains, he's got the money, so
Well,
he organizes it.
I think this is just the setting up though of setting him up to be the Kingpin. I don't think William Fisk is the villain. I think Kingpin is the villain. And we know just the very last scene we just have him staring at the wall.
Yeah,
Um
just
and
like the painting, just like the wall in his old house.
yeah, he's not going to let this go. So Daredevil is his number one target.
Yeah, and I think up until those last moments of the last episode, he thought he was doing good. Like I don't think anywhere along the line until the end did he think he was doing harm. He knew maybe he was doing bad things, but to achieve something greater. He never saw it as bad until the end when everyone turned against him.
Yes.
Yep.
But
what I think and where I disagree with you guys here is that he is a villain, but he's a humanized villain. Where they're showing you there are reasons he's where he's at. There are reasons he's done these horrible things, and they're human reasons, human problems. But he's still doing these evil, terrible things, which makes him a villain.
I think so far the only non-humanized villain we've gotten is Red Skull.
That's ambition.
I know, but still.
Which is still a human thing, but he took it farther than normal.
Yes, exactly.
Honestly, to me, it would probably be Ronan.
There you go, you're right.
The least humanized.
I forgot about Ronan. So
yeah, Ronan's pretty bad.
So let's go
to side.
Let's stay on Kingpin and go to Vanessa here at the same time, who he met buying a painting. That I like how it's like, okay, so it's just a white painting, and she playfully called it a rabbit in a snowstorm.
Yeah,
a white rabbit in a snowstorm. I just love how how many episodes later you find out it reminds him of the wall he stared at. That his father told him, sit here, stare at this wall, and think about the man you want to be.
Yeah.
And he still does that.
He still does it. Yeah.
I guess it was the only part that he took as decent advice from his father.
Yeah.
Which I guess it worked for him, and now that's going to make him all the more, how do you put it, determined?
Yeah, I mean,
especially in prison.
He's a very driven person. Like anything he wants, he's gonna do anything to get it.
Right.
And that's sort of like focusing on what he wants. Like when he wakes up, that's what he sees. He spent probably hundreds of thousands of dollars on that painting that looks like the wall from a shitty apartment in Hell's Kitchen in the 80s or 70s.
Seriously. It's like...
But then he's also looking at something very similar in his cell at the end.
Right, exactly. And
so it's not about the money. It's not. It's about the look that it looks like that wall.
And it's going to, staring at that cell now is just going to, I guess you could say, consolidate his drive and his ambition, and just make him all that much more of a force to be reckoned with when he's finally broken out of prison.
Yeah, and this is why I think that none of this would have worked in a film. Because we got how many episodes from when we met when we met Fisk staring at that painting to the very end where he's staring at the wall of his cell. We would not have gotten all of that information in the movie. I think this was needed to be a 13-episode series.
I love how that was portrayed. How they introduced the character staring at that painting, and then they phase the series. Like the last scene is him staring at that painting. Not that painting per se, but but the equivalent. Modern art, you see it. Shit, I could have done that. Yeah, but you didn't. It's all modern art is.
And I have to say, she is a really good saleswoman.
She is.
Yeah, I liked when Murdoch went to the gallery, and he was like, "So I bet you're wondering why a blind man's wanting to buy art."
Didn't want to lead with that.
Yeah. And then Fisk comes out. It's like, buy whatever she tells you to buy. This is
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's the kind of character she is. That's the she knows that much about it. It's like, yeah,
That's her
this is what
specialty. She knows what, she can read the person.
Yeah.
you're looking for. This.
The painting she showed Matt was the way he sees. Like, we saw, I think, the episode before, how he saw
The
looked
world.
at Claire, the world on fire, and then that painting, I was like, that's the world on fire! Ah,
Right.
she's a wizard!
Exactly. You know what? She read a blind man and figured out what art he should buy.
Yeah,
That's talent.
she's a wizard!
Yeah, he was like, yeah, it's a bit too aggressive for me.
She also falls for a man and doesn't give a shit that he is a mobster, has people killed, and personally kills people with his bare hands
Yeah.
when his
I mean-
anger gets out of control.
She, like, their relationship is very interesting.
Because you got to question, was it all about the money in the beginning? Regardless of how much she said it wasn't.
That's true. I'm not sure. I think she actually. You said she's good at reading people. I think whatever she read in Fisk was what that little boy thought and felt when he stared at the wall, right before he murdered his father.
Right.
Like, she saw the little boy in him.
And he saw
And
the
she
little
saw those
boy in
emotions
himself
from him.
every time
And
he
I
looked
think
at
that's
himself in the
why
mirror.
she was attached to him.
I can like that. So where was he sending her? Somewhere in Europe?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know. Nah.
Wasn't
I
it-
honestly don't remember.
I think it was Paris. I'm not really sure.
Paris. Love interest for the villain. I love it when they do stuff like that because, as we've
Yeah, it was
mentioned a
kinda-
few times, humanizing the villain.
Kinda refreshing.
It was
Which I am-
very refreshing.
A fan of.
I am a great fan of that.
Yeah.
So
Because I still saw him as a villain, but it's like, okay, here are these reasons that you are where you are. And that's fantastic.
and speaking of, while we're on this humanizing the villain track, let's talk about James Wesley. Fisk's right-hand man, who also just happens to be his best friend.
Yeah.
Now, that guy was
His
not a
only
villain.
friend.
You know what? He also did bad things, but Wesley did not strike me as the villainous type right off the bat.
Wesley was the
Another lawful evil character.
what's his Alfred to Fisk's Batman.
You know what? He was the Alfred to Fisk's Batman. That is a great analogy. Think about it, though. That perfectly summarizes their relationship.
Kind of.
He,
And
like,
I mean, Fisk has these almost debilitating social anxieties that Wesley.
completely nullifies. Yeah, he accommodates him. As he said, he gives Vanessa that wine. He's like, she's like, oh, it's delicious. I've never had it. My assistant recommended it. Like, okay.
Yeah, she's like, maybe I should be dating him.
Yeah. I liked Wesley a lot as a
I
character
did.
because, I mean,
I was really honestly shocked when he died.
so was I.
Yeah.
Not even
So
about
was
the whole.
Karen.
So was
Yeah.
Karen.
So was Karen.
I
Yeah,
think
it
they
wasn't
were-
even about the gunshot or it being loaded or whatever. It was, wow, they actually killed him.
Yeah.
That's a decent character, and they actually killed him.
Yeah.
I was so distraught. I paused it. I got up. I walked away.
I needed to take a few minutes after that episode because I watched.
I went and made some food. I actually stepped outside my house, paced around my porch for a minute.
Yeah, I took a
Really?
break from that because episode
Yeah.
11 into 12, I was going to watch 12 and then, call it a night and watch, the finale the next day. But after that, I was like, what Cleo did when Foggy, got all betrayed. I was like, that's enough for now, and we're going to continue this later, kids.
Well, I think that was I think that was episode 10
11.
where Foggy finds out. 11?
Oh, no, Foggy was 10, yeah.
Foggy was 10. So yeah, I had to take a break there, but 11, 12, and 13, because I was at the end of 12, I'm like, next episode. It's like I couldn't get fast enough to the next episode.
Gotta find this out. Gotta figure it out.
Gotta
Gotta figure it
figure
out.
it
Yeah. Great stuff. Wesley. Rest in
Yeah.
peace.
I that scene I think is amazing for so many reasons, because Wesley so flawlessly bluffs. He's like, "You think I'd give you a loaded gun?"
He pulled that whole scene off flawlessly. The entire thing.
He made me believe there were no bullets in that gun.
Me too. And he was shocked she shot him, and I think she was shocked that it was actually loaded.
Yeah, and I think
go ahead.
Go on.
No, go.
I don't think he would have died had he taken her seriously, so to speak. Because him dying was just, he got up to basically dismiss her. Like, do you really think there's bullets in that gun? Do you really think you're capable of killing me? And as he's getting up, she's got the gun. She fires. She fires wildly over his left shoulder, or his right shoulder, actually.
Oh, she hits him in the.
she
hits him high on the shoulder.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
She fires and is wildly over his shoulder, but at the same time he's standing up. And so as he's standing up, the bullet clips his shoulder. And it's like, and she just kind of stunned, and he's just kind of stunned, and then she's just like, well, fuck it, I gotta go for it now. Pow, 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 pow. Just unloads the clip on him.
Right, he would have survived. That was, real life, a shoulder wound is nothing to be, taken lightly, but in movies, you take a shoulder wound, you live.
Yeah.
In movies and TV.
But it was also his right shoulder, so that was not the heart artery side.
It was just
that probably was.
You have two brachial arteries; they're just as big on both sides.
Oh, okay, but
what anatomy?
Fine, an anatomy man. No, I realized.
Sorry, I paid attention.
But the pause that there was between the first shot and the next 5 was so like important, and the tempo of that scene was amazing. Just a lot of excellent things about that scene. And
the direct aftermath of that scene.
Yeah.
Like, because up until this point, you see Wesley as he's assistant to Fisk. He's, Kingpin's right-hand man, like his head henchman, pretty much. And then at this point, it really, that solidifies the theory. He really was Fisk's friend. Like, Fisk viewed him as way more than a subordinate.
Yeah, that's right, because as soon as he died, I'm like, oh, Fisk is gonna be mad. It's like when he said, Wesley's more than my assistant, he's my friend, you're like, oh yeah, okay, he's his friend, whatever. But then when he dies, it's like, oh, he's his friend. Oh, he's like his only friend. Oh.
And that kind of
bad things will happen.
That started, the full-on... Yeah, that was a few outbursts from Fisk there.
Yeah.
And I love how nobody could figure out what happened to Wesley. No one knows who killed Wesley still.
No!
Karen is the only one.
Yes! And I think... It's such a big... Obviously, it's such a big part of her psyche now.
Yes.
She's murdered a dude, like, that's impacting her. I mean, Matt notices it in just the way she carries herself.
Yeah. He notices immediately. And, I mean, that's a big thing to carry.
Yeah.
I mean, yes. It's very likely he would have killed her. Like, taking it from her point of view, it's very likely that she was not leaving that room alive anyway. So there is that to somewhat comfort her. But she did, just outright blow a guy away.
Mm-hmm.
And shattered all illusions I had that she was some kind of spy or had weapons training or has killed many people before. And I was just like, oh, nope, she's just a chick from, Hell's Kitchen or wherever she was originally from.
Yeah, I was going to say, she struck me as someone who moved to New York.
To New York, yes. Yeah. I think they even covered that. I don't know if they said where she's originally from.
They may have.
They even she said something like, I've not been here long enough to love the city.
Yeah.
Very true. So Wesley, rest in peace. Great character. Great.
Oh, there was something else I wanted to say about, not about Wesley, but about Karen murdering someone. Even after Nobu, even after Nobu died, Matt was still like, I haven't taken a life. I'm like, but you killed Nobu.
you kind of killed Nobu.
You did. He did that. I think that counts as a death.
That counts
as a kill for Daredevil.
You know what? Yes, it very technically, but you got to realize he deflected, a projectile thrown at him from Nobu, and it shattered the light bulb, which caused sparks and set Nobu on fire. So it wasn't, Daredevil actually lighting a match and setting him on fire.
No, but every ricochet that he's done this season has hit its mark. He's thrown things off walls, it's hit guys in the head. Everything he's done has landed exactly where he wants it to.
Right, but also realize all of those ricochets did not come from master ninjas, and he at the time was not bleeding from about 12 to 14 different lacerations all over his body.
I just saw that as him murdering Nobu. Killing Nobu.
It's no different than the sniper outside killing the guys because of Daredevil, or any of the other collateral damage that's happened because of Daredevil.
Mm-hmm.
It's the guy died. It's I don't know.
Yeah.
They had, especially since Fisk's men were already there, and they could have very easily put him out.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were just like, let him burn.
The only reason they walked in at that moment is because they knew Nobu was on the floor. That he's done.
He was on the floor on fire, and honestly, you can only survive that for less than a minute, really.
Yeah. And I mean, he stopped moving pretty quickly after he was on fire. He threw a punch.
He threw a couple punches, and when he went down, Nobu was dead when he went down. There was no... Even if they put him out immediately, there would have been no saving him.
Yeah.
But I love like we were saying, after Wesley dies... Gao and the other guy, whose name?
The financial guy. Yeah.
Huh? Owlsley. Yes, Owlsley. Who is another Marvel villain whose name I can't remember. But Owlsley and Gao are like, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
And Fisk is like, just nobody knows. And it may never come out.
I liked how that caused the paranoia. That caused this just happened, that just happened, and now this, all these people died at your reception, and then this happens to your right hand man. Somebody's really coming after you here.
Right? Someone is really, and yeah, exactly. That set in more paranoia about him. He didn't realize, they were targeting Vanessa. To his point of view, someone's trying to assassinate him, and they're just not getting to him.
Yeah, but that's exactly what Owlsley and Gao wanted him to think.
Yeah, true.
That was what they were going for.
That was what they were going for.
And I loved, because the thing about Gao was she was lying about, only speaking Chinese. She actually spoke English perfectly.
I love that.
And so when that was revealed, I'm like, is she gonna turn out to be secret crouching tiger, hidden dragon? And then she does this to Daredevil's.
She spin moves and palms him.
Oh, she is.
I just love that.
I'm like, yes.
Oh my god, I love that. What am I going at? She reveals to Fisk, whatever. And then when she comes up to Owlsley and speaks English, she just nods and then looks at her. And it took him 5 seconds to process fully.
Yeah, he's like, you speak English now? There's no need for pretense anymore. Okay.
I mean, I love that. I'm like, okay, this little Asian lady's got to know some kind of kung fu because, it would just be crazy. But the fact that she did a spin and just hit him and he went flying across a warehouse, I was like... Yeah. Okay, Nobu was a master ninja, and he couldn't have pulled that off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is she?
It's also a measure of surprise, because around Nobu, who was obviously dressed up like a ninja, Matt had his guard up, but against this old woman with a cane, he was just didn't even think a thing about it.
I just love that.
It was part surprise, but also part she's fucking crouching tiger, hidden dragon.
I was watching it right where I'm sitting right now, and this is exactly what I did. She spun, she hit him, he looked up, and she was gone. I was just like, the fuck is she?
That's a slow clap moment. Right?
Yeah, that was a slow clap moment. And then, she drops that bomb like, I'm from somewhere considerably further away than China.
What does that mean? Okay, that's what I thought, because my mind went to S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Inhumans. I'm like, what is she talking about?
She could be. I mean, we're going to do a whole episode of this podcast coming soon after this of tie-ins. No, it's okay. Of tie-ins, where they could take this with the other series that we know Netflix is making and all that other stuff. But, I mean, there's a couple running theories about what she is. I was thinking, oh, great, is this another Kree we're dealing with?
What?
Is she an Inhuman? Go on.
What if she shows up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in that little Inhumans enclave?
Exactly.
Like next week.
Yeah.
Because that would just be
because
epic.
Technically what's happening in S.H.I.E.L.D. now is after the events of Daredevil.
Yeah.
So that's completely possible.
If you notice, that's the whole episode, the whole series is kind of time compressed. There's not many days that go on. I think like maybe a week, maybe. If you really count it.
It could have been a couple weeks.
And so they could easily just have said it like, well, the beginning of Daredevil is the beginning of, this most recent, episodes of S.H.I.E.L.D. and then have all that tie in together. Just crazy.
Yeah. Well, we're going to do a whole tie-in episode. We're going to get to that because tie-ins, we could talk for hours on that.
We
just watch our phase. Just watch our phase.
We probably will talk for hours.
Watch our Phase 3 podcast. We talk for 3 hours about 90% of material that hasn't seen the light of day yet.
Because we know what's coming. Next is AKA Jessica Jones. And then they're doing, what is it, Luke Cage and Iron Fist?
And Iron Fist. Iron Fist is last.
Right, so we know that's coming. So maybe it's a potential tie into that. But again, we'll cover that. So a couple of quick closing questions.
Closing? We're there already? Okay.
Well, we've been doing this for a bit.
I know. Go.
No, we'll get to any other concerns that we missed, but a couple of quick semi-closing, how's that, questions.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Are you satisfied?
Yes.
Great answer.
When it finished, and he was just standing on the roof, and you hear the scream, and he goes like this, I'm like, ah! Perfect.
So, Eric, I know you said you haven't finished the last 12, 13 minutes of the series, but are you satisfied so far?
Yeah. I didn't go into this with any kind of preconceptions or, knowledge of what Daredevil should or shouldn't be, and I really liked it.
Right. The only thing I really went into this with, God, I don't even remember the issue. I read, like I said, one comic. Look at this friggin' guy here. One comic I read, and the Ben Affleck movie. Those were the only two things I went into this series with. So, based on that, it was astronomically better than the Ben Affleck movie. And if I swear to God,
But like I said, I don't really want to compare it besides
I know.
Clark Duncan.
But if that's the reason...
Who I love.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Michael Clark Duncan. You were great in everything I've ever seen you in. Yeah, if watching the Daredevil movie was, if Zack Snyder or whoever cast for Batman vs Superman watched that and goes, Ben Affleck has experience standing in a rubber suit and standing ominously on the top of buildings, he'd make a great Batman. If that was his logic train of thought, fire him now, Warner Brothers.
To be fair, Ben Affleck's suit in the original Daredevil was leather.
Okay, I'm sorry, leather suit. You went there. So
I preferred the movie over. No, I'm kidding. I can't even joke like that.
You can't even finish
I can't even.
You hate yourself so much from the inside.
I
love. Your kidneys failed there, Dom.
I actually like the Daredevil TV series more than I enjoy Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So that's saying something because I really like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I was actually just gonna say that I love Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and I agree.
You know what? I have to as much as S.H.I.E.L.D. and I mean I just watched the most recent episode. As much as I'm loving it and it's just awesome.
Yeah,
this was better for me.
I like the movie format that the rest of the Marvel movies have currently right now because they're telling an overall story as well. So they, in themselves, feel like a 2-hour TV series that is continuing on and on and on.
Right.
But for this little pocket universe, it's not universe, but it's pocket of the universe, I should
Little,
say.
just
Um,
again, little
I
section.
think it worked really well in this format.
Yeah, and I like how focused this is.
Mm-hmm.
It's so
Yep.
focused on, and it feels so real because it's focused on this small piece of the world.
Yeah.
But it's no less important than the stuff that's happening across the galaxy in this
Exactly.
universe.
No, right. And as far as the whole universe scale, this is a ridiculously small pocket.
I know if I don't know if I know all you guys, especially Mike, live near this area in real life, and
Take me an
if
hour. It
I
would take both of us an hour 90 minutes to get there.
We live
And-
15 minutes away from each other.
if I lived near that place and they started shouting out road names and street names and everything, I would just have to drive by or walk by or whatever and be like, okay, so this is here, this is here, this is here, you know.
Okay, funny thing. Whenever they shot in Fisk's apartment, I was like, that's the Hudson River. I think there's a park over there that I go to that I know this view. It's like,
Right.
Yep.
yeah. So yes, definitely there were. They filmed on location in Manhattan.
Whenever they use Manhattan for anything, in any movie or TV show, I always sit there and judge. I'm like, is this really where they're saying it is?
Yeah.
Right.
And
Is
it
this
really
really as
was.
far?
Like, is this that close? Like, are they really gonna get from, like, in Home Alone 2, from the toy store to wherever the hell he was in Central Park, on foot at that short amount of time? Fuck no, he wasn't. But movie magic. So Dom, we didn't get an answer from you. Are you satisfied?
No.
More episodes?
Okay, but with this, excluding the fact that you need more episodes, were you satisfied with the 13 episodes you got?
No.
Because you want more episodes?
Mm-hmm.
I honestly think that this was so well self-contained, and just, even though it was like, it every so often dropped that, hey, we're in the same universe that all these movies took place in.
But
That
you
it
know
was
what?
so well and self-contained.
They
that,
didn't heavy-hand it either.
No, not at all.
There was only, I think, one or two verbal direct mentions of, like, oh yeah, New York just got destroyed by aliens 2 years ago.
And that was mainly in the first episode.
Right.
Yeah.
Every other notice was just little things you saw in the background, or little talkings. We're rebuilding new, sections of
Yeah.
New York, or Ulrich's office. The Battle of New York plastered on the wall.
Exactly. And that's another thing, because we're seeing how these real people are dealing with this crazy alien invasion. And it's like they call it the incident.
They
like
call
it's
it the
not
incident, and you know what?
Yeah.
Look at all of these people. They're just going about their daily lives like nothing. It's like, hey,
Yeah,
aliens exist. We've discovered extraterrestrial life, and they're going about their daily business.
I
It
have
really
a job
doesn't
to
affect
do,
them.
so
Yeah, that's kind of pulled off of the way Doctor Who handles it. People just kind of ignore it and move on.
But you know what? Realistically, if a week from now we were to be visited by, something equivalent to Vulcans, we would just be like, for 5 minutes, everybody in the world would just be like, holy shit. And then
Well-
they'd go about their daily lives.
I think Vulcans are a little different, because
Alright.
Vulcans come with the intention of making an alliance.
Okay, exactly.
So it's a little different.
Peaceful aliens, 5 minutes of holy shit, go about your daily business. Invading aliens, hours to weeks to days of panic, assuming we can repel them, and then go back to our daily lives.
Yeah.
Yes.
Probably not.
I also wanted to ask about the costumes, because I really liked both the Vigilante and the Daredevil costumes.
It fit
And
very well.
I really like the fact that we didn't get the final Daredevil costume till the last episode, too.
And even then, the guy was like, I didn't have enough time, so the red parts aren't as bulletproof as the black parts. And it's like, so it is kind of still a work in progress.
It was like, black parts offer maximum protection. Red parts, they might deflect a knife. Depends on the angle.
Yeah.
But that's another realistic, and they did that with, with Batman Begins and everything. Like, this armor, it can stop a bullet, anything but a straight shot, and it'll deflect a knife and everything. But it's not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to be in an indestructible suit of armor.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, even Iron Man is an indestructible suit of armor.
No, he's gone through how many suits?
He's on like
They've all
Mark
got
40 something.
busted? Yeah.
Right.
He's got to be on like Mach 50 by now, 50 something.
Probably is.
I think that last scene had like 50 suits in it, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. So, unless there's anything else we need to talk about, I think we've covered this pretty well.
I want more. I
I
want
have-
more.
Did not Mrs. Cal. Oh shoot! Now I've forgotten her name. I feel
Who?
as bad as this old Spanish lady.
Oh,
Oh.
yeah.
My favorite. I need to look. Cardenas.
Cardine, yeah. Constantly telling Mrs. Carnitas
Yes.
as the evil blonde lawyer who turned out to be not so evil.
I'm so mad Foggy's like getting back together with him. I'm like, no, Foggy, you deserve mountains more.
It's not getting back together, it's booty call.
I know, but still, at that scene, I was just like, ew, gross, Foggy, get out.
Get out, Froggy. Run.
You deserve better.
You're screwing the chick from Sucker Punch. No. Did you ever see the movie Sucker Punch?
Yes?
She was in it.
Who is she?
I forget her name. She was one of the three of them.
I can't afford to see more characters in other shows. It distracts me.
I
I'll
know.
have
Nope,
to
it's
look it
gone.
up later.
Slid over to
Oh
the
my
DVD
God,
collection.
I don't
It's
think-
gone.
It's just so, I was so upset when they killed her.
Yeah. I was too, but you know
And
what?
that's another thing about like the range of emotions of characters. It's like how Matt deals with it is very different. How Karen and
That was what
Foggy.
sent... Yeah, because in the middle, that sent Matt into a near murderous rage.
Yeah.
And that's when he said, I went to the wharf to kill Fisk. Like, that was his...
He was going to kill that drug dealer. Or
Right.
that druggie.
He was going to kill the druggie.
He went there to kill him.
And then he wanted to kill Fisk.
And that's precisely a reason I think scenes like, or characters like the priest are vital. Because that's another side of his struggle with... I don't think if we ixnayed the priest, I don't think we would have gotten the whole, like, feeling of how much Matt was struggling with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
Not
I can't.
killing these people.
I can't wait. Like, yeah. So I really enjoyed this. I want more, and I know we're like you said, we're gonna talk about stuff like this in another podcast. But AKA Jessica Jones is coming out this year.
Yes.
So and I know in the comics for a fact, Matt Murdock was Jessica Jones's lawyer for a couple cases and stuff like that. So we're probably gonna see him in that series as well. So
Exactly. And who knows what else we'll get. I swear we're going to see Madame Gao coming in those series, too.
yeah.
That ominous I'm from somewhere far away is
Yep.
going to come right back. Anyway, that's our show. Great 13-episode series, very well executed. I mean, obviously, if you've watched this whole podcast, you know that we all have nothing but great things to say about this. I mean, was it perfect? No, but it was as close to perfect as, I could have asked for, personally.
And I think it's
Anything is close to perfect when you're comparing it to the movie.
And on that
which I tried
bombshell,
very hard not to do.
and on that bombshell, Dom, where can they find you in your magical vanishing act?
I had to go fight crime. You had to find me down below at Phenomedom, PHENOMEDOM.
Awesome.
Dom.
Do 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 do. Always
That's
got
my
to do it.
that's my superhero name.
Always got it. Erica, how about you?
Pretty much everywhere at Erica Reigns 7.
Indeed.
Yes.
Leo.
You can find me all over the socials at Cleomoto, and you can find me on Twitch at the Cleomoto.
All the socials. You can find me on Twitter.
Most of the socials.
Most of the socials. You can find me on Twitch and Twitter at Philidrin. You can follow all of us and the rest of our lovely hosts that are not on this podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Gmail, and MySpace. Thank you. He didn't take the hint.
No.
And most importantly, YouTube at ASO TV Podcast, all one word. And you could follow us at those places for some more podcasts for some of your favorite TV shows. Currently popular, Game of Thrones.
Woo!
And coming
As
soon,
always.
and coming right after this, Gotham. So if you're watching live, stay tuned. Thank you for watching, everybody. Have a lovely time of day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.